Hi, Melanie. Hi,
Hi,
Vicki.
Wynne. Hi,
I,
Vicki.
Hello.
Hmm.
it's so warm and inviting to sit and talk with you both this morning, and I'm
Ah,
so grateful for that. It's especially with people that we've gotten to know over many comments and many posts. It
yeah.
just feels like rich territory to have these conversations.
Yeah, you guys are so great to be around. It's just easy to chat,
It
So
is.
I appreciate you having me back on today.
Well, we're grateful to have you, and we want you
Yeah.
to tell us about your interest in dreams. What is it about dreams, whether they be your own or others, that captivates us so much?
Well, I would say that I didn't know it at the time, but I was in my 30s maybe, and I had caught a talk show,
Mm,
and a dream expert was on.
Hmm.
And she was referencing, decoding dreams.
mm,
And someone asked, what if I've dreamt of somebody famous?
mm.
And she said, well, who was it? And actually, I'd love to ask you guys, just off the top of your head, think of somebody famous.
Oh,
Just
Robert
doesn't
Downey
matter.
Jr.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yep.
Great. Okay, what are three things about him? What are three attributes? Talented,
Hmm.
um,
He's a little dangerous.
a little dangerous,
Yeah. Uh,
and
he's joyful.
joyful. Okay, I like all those. All right. Well, so what you're doing, you have those three traits, and then you look in your own circle. You look in your own life. You look at your who you
Oh.
work with, your family, your friends. Who's a little dangerous?
Mm.
Who's joyful?
Yeah.
And who's really talented?
Yeah.
And and maybe it doesn't work 100% of the time, but you often go, well, it could be this person. And it almost
Uh-huh.
always ties to a recent event because
Mm.
that's what dreams are famous for. They
I
often
love
tie
it.
to recent events, although you can go back
Yeah.
to, but and then you go, oh, well, I did have an argument with, Uncle Johnny last week. And,
Hmm.
so, and then you can begin the process. And
Mhm.
I'm just
Yeah.
such a decode. I mean, I love mysteries. I love
Yeah.
solving problems. I'm, try to be a detective. I watch true crime shows. I just
Yeah.
love all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that was sort of a natural inclination.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then the other thing is I am literally like walking emotion. I mean, I move through life like that
Yeah.
because I mean, I've taken Briggs Myers test. I've had
Yeah.
my astrology chart done where I am literally water personified. I have
Yeah.
so many water signs in my chart that I am, and water is tied to, equated with feelings and
Yeah.
emotions. So
Yeah.
it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dreams are just like processing events and the emotions attached to them. So of
Hmm.
course I'm just like innately like emotions,
Yeah.
trying to figure them out. So that's
Yeah.
sort of I realized that more recently, but I have always been fascinated by the potential,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like of what a dream can say.
And I see that as like a part of your writer's heart too.
Mm.
Kind of looking for the source,
Mhm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
everything that you've done kind of in your other careers, right? That there's always a trail, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Well, and I like what you say about processing, that it's just another thread in the trail that we
Mm-hmm.
can use, whether
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the clues that we're uncovering. Because as you just said, I just learned that recently. Like, it's funny how we can live this life and still be learning things about ourselves.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Really.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the cool
So,
thing about dreams is that and you've got some great thoughts to share about this, I know, but the thing that's so cool about dreams is that it's an opportunity to tap
Mhm.
awareness that you might not otherwise have access to, and like how you do that and remembering
Mhm.
dreams and trying to crawl back in. And I know you've done some thinking about that too, because it's kind of a ripe and wonderful place to do some mining about things, especially
Hmm.
if feelings matter. And then for me, that application to everyday life, what is it you
Hmm.
were trying to work out in the dream state, or like you said, what are the emotions? It's just like so
Right.
much potential there.
There is.
Yeah.
There is. There absolutely is.
Yeah.
Well, just to go back to your post briefly, because that's sort of how we got to talking about
Yeah.
dreams, was I was just clued into the fact that the blue, if the eyeliner was just eyeliner, that this dream would be just totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But it was blue eyeliner, and that was
Yeah.
ripe with decoding. And and I said that in my comment, but when I thought about it a little bit more, because I kind of forgot about the map part. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking you wanted the blue eyeliner, but then you decided, no, I don't have time for that. I don't want to be
Hmm.
late. I don't want to be lost. I'm leaving the blue eyeliner behind. It took you a
Hmm.
little while to find the car, but you found the car and you moved that car forward to
Mm.
all those places on the map
Hmm.
without the blue eyeliner. And so
Yeah.
you literally left Sue
Yeah.
behind and were successful because all those places were like successful conventions or
Yeah.
conferences or things that so that's sort of
Right.
how I look at it. Because I went back and read it too. I'm like, I think there's more here.
Well, and you're so sweet, and for, we'll link the post that I wrote, that you're
Mhm.
speaking to. But it was when we write things, sometimes there's such a cloak of vulnerability that we
Mhm.
have to shed. And I remember that day when I wrote the post late and lost, I could see how some of those themes were manifesting, and I was starting to make meaning of it. But the thing that I have found about the decoding that you talk about, those things that pop as being symbolic, like the blue eyeliner or the worried
Mhm.
about being lost or late, like you said, the blue was very, very pivotal in the
Mhm.
dream. And, for those who haven't, read, lots of people, blue was my mother's favorite color, and there's so much conflict still, unresolved, with her having passed. But I almost knew right away that there was a lot to consider with that. But I think people will sometimes say, and maybe this is true for you, Wynne, as well. People say, well, there's so much detail that you recalled, and you wrote about
Mhm.
telling this story. How did you do that? And so I wrote a little bit about that, but tell us how you do that, Melanie, so that you can crawl in and then like siphon out the
Yeah,
pieces.
I have never had a discussion with anybody about this because I just feel like it's like
Oh,
I have a strange mind.
well, if you do, your girlfriends do too.
Exactly.
So,
I suspect that we all don't really want other people to peek under those covers.
oh my gosh.
It hasn't been all my life at all. I'd say maybe just in the last 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, I will have a very interesting dream. Even it can be a shorter dream, but I'll have an interesting dream and then I'll wake up. Maybe I'll wake up because of the dream,
Yeah.
that we've all experienced that.
Yeah.
And then I want the dream to continue because it's an interesting dream, but I'm awake now. So I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I really have to use the restroom, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to get back into bed and I'm going to focus. I mean, I
Hmm.
focus again and again and again,
Hmm.
even if it's a snippet. And I won't. And what's great about that is I'm so focused on continuing the dream. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about all that other garbage that comes up in the middle of the night when you go,
Yeah.
oh, what am I going to do about blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
And it's great. It just pushes it aside. So
Yeah.
as a sleep aid alone, I
So
recommend
good.
that. But what
So good.
happens is, as I'm thinking about it, ideas start to come like, oh, it could go in this direction. I could do
Hmm.
this, or I could stop that from happening. And sometimes I'll go back to sleep and it will continue like how I wanted to. But that's unusual.
Yeah.
More what happens is I do go back to sleep, but I've remembered the part so many times, the muscle memory of going over it over and
Yeah.
again, that it becomes a thing every night. That's the new dream I'm thinking about. I'm
Yeah.
still processing and I'm still trying to make it work.
Hmm.
And I create a story. I mean, that I just create a whole story. If they're crazy stories, they make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But just as an example, I was working on the Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We were in China.
ooh.
I was protecting a president. I, do not know who the president
This
is.
is Melanie the spy. Yeah.
This is Melanie the
Oh,
spy.
yeah.
There's an explosion. You have to protect the president. And we're running and we see a panic room.
Oh,
But we're clever, right? We're like, no, we're not going to put the president in the panic room because that's what they want. Then the president is isolated and they can get
goodness.
to him.
Yeah.
So I say, you guys keep going down the hall. We can get him out another way. So I go in the panic room and lock it so that they think when the bad people come, they think the president's in there, giving them more.
Wow. Wow. That high level of detail. And I think, isn't that like one of the hallmarks? I mean, I know a little bit about dream interpretation enough to be dangerous from my, psych and therapy background. But I think that's one of the hallmarks of lucid dreaming, to be in that dream state and to feel like you can take command, not just remember what you're doing, but kind of execute and holy cow, in a high stakes way. Look at what you were doing. Woo.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, to me, I thought and I guess you probably kind of said this. I thought lucid dreaming was you're in the dream and you can, from your conscious mind,
Yeah.
say, okay, now do this, now do that.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had that skill. That was the original dream. That was how it started.
Yeah.
Then as I thought about it, I'm like, well, what happens after they find me in the panic room? That's where the
Oh
conscious
my.
side, and it just took off. I had a broken arm from the explosion. The country ended up being China. They took me to the hospital. I had, it cast, but they knew I worked for the Secret Service and they really, really, really wanted me to live in China for a while and they would take care of me and they would do this and that. So I'm like, okay,
Holy
that's great.
cow.
I can do that. I'll live a new culture for a while. I didn't want to like leave. And it goes on there. It's really
But
like
it's
an
an
epic.
entire story. It's like it
Yes,
has an arc, a beginning, a middle, an end. You have
Right?
it
agency
does.
throughout. But I guess I'm dying to know, does all of that detail come right up when you wake up? Or what do you do to like grab all that so you don't forget or that you can crawl back
Well, I
in?
think part of it is that it comes from when I'm awake.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That I'm building the story when I'm awake, and because I keep thinking about it and pondering about it, it
Mm-hmm.
sticks. Now, in this case, an interesting side dream. So I was keeping the storyline in my dream. So I fall
Yeah.
asleep and I'm in my dream, and there is an assassination attempt on their leader,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a crazy one. Like teenagers are playing with this giant balloon and they're just kind of pushing it and they're moving along this promenade where the president lives and there's a balcony and they're like pushing it up to have him like
Mm.
bat it back down. Well, really, they're wearing gloves and there's poison on the balloon,
Oh
and
my
if they can
gosh.
only get him to
Gosh.
telling you it's crazy, and I won't go any further than that. But that was dreamt. Like that came up in my.
Girl.
I wasn't conscious. Going, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? That just sort
Yeah.
of came.
You should be writing episodes for one of those like NCIS
Yeah,
whatever
Mhm.
shows, right?
Right?
You need a contract somewhere to be writing
I need a
episodes.
contract. That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Talk about a
Yeah.
writer's heart. You know what? I
Yeah.
think it's interesting. It's just the other morning, my 9-year-old daughter, Miss O, and I were talking about dreams because she'd had a dream that night. And at the same time, I'd had a dream about her. And so
Hmm.
we were trading dreams and just that act of talking about it. And
Yeah.
then you start realizing where the threads
Yeah.
don't make sense and where you and I
Mhm.
wonder if you're doing that in your as you're thinking hard about those details, trying to go back to sleep and go into the dream, like you're working out those details of what doesn't make sense, what does make sense, right?
Maybe. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe. That
Yeah.
reminds me, though, if you don't mind me just sidestepping a little bit
Yeah.
on it, it
Sure.
kind of ties in. In the book, I will show you the book that I
Oh
was
yeah.
reading.
You have a great
Why
resource
We
to
Sleep,
share. Mm-hmm.
Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. So I focused
Mm-hmm.
on the dreams part. And I thought it was fascinating. He tried to describe Matthew
Matthew Walker.
Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Tried to describe, or did describe how, like, all of us have a gazillion memories. Like, just what's a memory for you,
Like a
Vicki?
not a dream memory, but just
Just
a
a, no, just a memory. Yeah,
yeah.
an awake, a real life memory.
Yeah, so this morning I took my kids to school and they got out of the car and they were a little bit late and they were running together towards the gate and it was just this
Oh,
beautiful moment of okay, see you later.
oh.
Oh, so there's that memory, and then maybe from that memory comes down like when you were young and maybe you
Mhm,
were late, or which then takes you to maybe your dad taking you to school once,
mhm,
or everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a family tree,
mhm,
all these memories we have.
Mm-hmm.
And
mm,
it trickles down and it divides out because you have, and then it gets broader and broader and broader. So that's in your wake state. You have this memory tree.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're in REM sleep, which is the dream state,
Mm-hmm.
your mind removes all the guards of the logical associations on
mhm.
purpose. And then
Yeah.
there's, as he calls it, let's see here, I wanted to write it down. Hold on. No, it's somewhere right here. Where are you? Oh, okay. An inspired form of memory mixology begins to occur,
Mm,
where REM cycles seek out the most distant, non obvious links to put together, all for creativity.
Wow.
mm,
So they get all jumbled up in your REM sleep. They're purposely like looking for new ways to think and to think outside the box and to make these new associations. And that's creativity.
Wow.
wow.
And what's so cool about that is that I think people, and maybe this is just, what I know about trauma survivors and, recovery and all of that. It it's important to make that distinction between what the mind can do and pulling together. I love that phrase, the inspired form of memory mixology, that there is that creativity and the mix and match that can occur
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
might hint at reality, but is different from reality. And I think yeah, it's a fascinating thing about how the brain works, but the
Mhm,
fact that
Mm-hmm.
you're, putting a positive spin on it from his point of view about the creative potential,
mhm,
that's super cool.
And just a little anecdote that goes with that he
mm.
shared that I just thought was really cool. So Keith Richards had a habit of routinely keeping a guitar and a tape
Rolling
recorder at
Stones,
his.
Keith Richards, yeah.
Yes, Keith,
Okay.
correct. Rolling Stones, Keith
Mm-hmm.
Richards. So he kept a guitar and a tape recorder always by. So this one night, or actually one morning, and these are his words. I don't know where they come from, but I go to bed as usual with my guitar, and I wake up the next morning and I see that the tape has run to the very end. And I think, well, I didn't do anything. Maybe I hit a button when I was asleep. So I put it back to the beginning and push play. And there, in some sort of ghostly version, is the opening lines to Satisfaction. It was a whole verse of it. And after that, there's 40 minutes of me snoring. So he woke in this dream state, hit play, kind of all the disassociative things that were being created in his head. He accomplished it. He went to sleep and it ran out.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good story. I
That is
love
a
that.
great story. Talk about, and that gets to that creativity that you were saying that Matthew
Yeah.
Author talks about, like that it's pulling those things together, taking off those guardrails, as I think how you
Yep.
said it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that kind of stuff is just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's joyful. I think sometimes, and maybe you both have some thoughts about that, but knowing that there is such potential, within that subconscious dream state, what do we do to access it, use it, as
Hmm.
as a conduit? Because we need all the joy we can get. We need all the
Right.
problem solving we can get. We need all of
Mhm.
that. But what are your thoughts, both of you, about how we tap that to make use of it? I like what you said, Wynne, about sharing with your daughter,
Hmm.
like making a moment, but how do we do that? I want to be able to use it. Hmm.
It's a good question. I mean, I think just to go back to that conversation with Miss O, it's opening that form of dialogue that's just back and forth that just
Okay.
is so precious to me that
Yeah.
it just that ability to just share what doesn't make sense, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really sweet.
Well, in some ways, Melanie reached out, for us to have this conversation. This is an example of that, kind of
Hmm.
encouraging one another and doing the sharing
Mhm.
between girlfriends. Yeah, I see that.
Well, and I wanted to just touch on images in dreams too, and I'm going to
Hmm.
share another dream, which you guys will like. Um, because they're so, and image by images, I mean water. Now, water can be lots of things. It could be a tidal wave. It could be a river.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So if you dream of a river, are you dreaming about crossing over that river? Are you, going to be trying to start something new by trying to cross over that river into a
Hmm.
new life,
Hmm.
or the tidal wave, of course, is kind of scary. Obviously, it's like something's overwhelming, in
Yeah.
your life. But
Yeah.
that's water, and there's lots of
Hmm.
examples of water. There's also animals.
Hmm.
Animals are common in dreams, like sheep. If you were to dream of a sheep,
Hmm.
you might be feeling very passive about a situation,
Hmm.
and you're feeling hurted, like you're
Hmm.
not having your voice heard and you're being hurted.
Yes, right.
um and this is my favorite. This is why I was saying I was going to bring it up with you. I had this dream. It has an animal in it, and I'm outside in my backyard, and a giant white horse
Mm.
appears before me, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And he or she talks. I'm going to say she talks to me and says, I can't stay, but you have my blessing.
Oh.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. But I really wanted the horse to stay. It was
Mhm.
fabulous to have this giant white horse that I'm talking to. And then
Hmm.
it's gone. But so I run to the front of the house just to see if I can see it galloping down the street or something.
Hmm.
I wanted another image. And
Hmm.
there it was on the roof of a good friend who lives across the street. And it's on the roof looking at
Wow.
me. And it says the same thing. Like, I can't stay, but I give you my blessing.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
of course, I have to look that up, right? White horses symbolize change,
Mm.
knowledge, freedom. But when you have a talking white horse, and this might apply to another talking animal, I'm not sure, but that is getting into your subconscious where you are literally connected to your intuition, and it's talking, it's giving you a message. It's okay.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So what was happening on that day? I was getting my tattoo.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And,
Wow. And
and
were you nervous about it?
I was nervous. We've discussed it. I'm not a tattoo kind of girl. We know why I got it. It was like a
Well,
symbol of
it's your
change and
survivor
freedom from
story.
cancer,
Mhm.
and it's a
Right.
whole
Yeah.
thing. And when the horse was on the roof, that woman is the one who drove me to get the tattoo that day.
Oh.
Oh,
So
that is
come
so,
on.
come on. I
Oh,
I
I mean,
love the full circle nature of what you've just said. First of all,
oh,
in tying
yeah.
that dream together, but also in connecting to our last podcast conversation
Right.
about that, talked about the tattoo. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so good.
It's so good, right?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
and I just remembered so well. It was a great dream.
Yeah.
And I guess in hindsight, it's because I'm literally talking to myself, like my
Mm-hmm.
intuition, my subconscious is like
Yeah.
given the green light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Oh,
happen that often. I wish it gave it the green light more. It would
yeah.
help me.
Right.
It
Right.
help all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah, right? Oh
It
my
would, but
gosh.
at least we're getting the creativity bump from our dreams.
Yes,
So much
yes.
so. So
Does
much so.
Matthew Walker say anything about people who don't remember their dreams?
That is a good question. I think all that was referenced was that it happens, that there are just
Hmm.
some people who can retain detail and
Hmm.
and
Hmm. Hmm.
um But everyone has to dream at least a little bit because there's the non-REM sleep stages
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
where you are not dreaming. That I mean, Vicki, you know that
Mm-hmm.
you can tell with it because there's three stages and then there's the
Right.
REM cycle. And
Right.
this happens 60 to 90 minutes throughout the night,
Mhm.
like all
Yep.
these. So people maybe have a shorter REM cycle. There might be something involved in
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
place where we dream. But I
Yeah.
just think, I don't know, I think it's the personality of the person, maybe to some
Mhm.
degree, and
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
whether they're gonna can retain it or what. But I don't remember specifically
Yeah.
what
Wow. Yeah.
what
Good.
Matthew said
I
on it.
think there's so much right now. You guys know about the Aura rings and the
Mm.
wearable devices that people can really wear to like track their sleep states
Mm.
and the amount of time that you're in various sleep cycles. And I
Oh
think,
no, I'm
you
not. I
know,
have not. I have not even heard of that. An
yeah,
aura ring?
Yeah.
Is it like a necklace?
no, it's a ring. You wear it on your
Oh, it's a ring.
forefinger.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Um, but other wearable devices, we won't name any brand names, probably shouldn't have
Hmm.
done that. But I think there increasingly is a health and wellness renewed interest
Mm.
in looking at high quality sleep. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people who say they don't dream are doing, what you said, Melanie. They're really not getting that restorative sleep,
Mhm.
where you
Hmm.
can really do, both physiologically and psychologically some repair work potentially
Right.
in your subconscious. But I think there's a lot of interest in doing that
Mhm.
because there's potential. But your question's such a good one, Wynne, because we've all been around people who say, I don't dream, I don't
Yeah.
remember anything. But
Right.
I
Right.
think it's like so many things in life, it's a talent, a skill you can cultivate.
Mhm.
And everything you've shared, oh my gosh, Melanie, is so
Right.
invitational, right? To
Mhm.
say, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. And the benefits of sleep overall. So, which I
Yeah.
love that you just highlighted that. So good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And we expect to see Melanie writing scripts for shows where she is the
Yeah.
heroine saving people or
Right.
Clearly the
Right.
mixology was going
Yeah.
crazy.
The mixology,
oh my
the
gosh.
decoding. Well,
Oh my gosh.
Melanie, thank you so much for coming on and talking about decoding our dreams. It's just so fun. What a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you. It was. I love it. Talking to you guys is great, and I appreciate being here. And we'll hey, let's start writing. I don't write down my dreams. I don't know why. I should,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
I noticed someone made a comment on your post, Vicki, that
Hmm.
she writes she writes everything. She's written all her dreams down for like 40 years. I
Oh,
Yes.
mean, like,
Yes.
wow. I
Right.
was like
Yeah.
super impressed with that. But
Yeah.
anyway, maybe like I should try to start writing more and when
yeah.
something comes up or I don't know,
Well, that's
just to
a pretty
retain
big
it.
reveal.
Yeah. Well,
If you're not, good golly, because you're one of our absolute favorite writers, and so I can only think of all the goodness that you shared with us. But if you start writing and recording, I just think of all the richness that will come back, to those of us that like reading
Mm.
everything that you have to offer.
Oh,
yeah.
And
thank you.
especially because you have so much to tell about. I know before we let you go, we know you're working on a project about your family, sort of
Yes.
memoir-ish, and
Yes.
there's so much, in your beautiful family, to bring forward about talents and skills and all of that. That when you keep track of your dreams, it's amazing, what you might be working out that could provide inspiration for bigger projects or right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
and I referenced, I mean, it wasn't very helpful in terms of detail, but I did dream of my parents this summer, which is very unusual for me because I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
seen my dad since I was 17. He died
Oh
when I was
my.
17. But
Yeah.
I knew because I've been all summer, I've been looking at things and remembering things and writing things down. So it wasn't really a surprise that this dream
Mm-hmm.
like happened, but it's just amazing how it can get to you. Like
Mm.
it's still emotional, I
Oh
just
yeah.
am in this house and I'm looking for a bottle of water and I'm going through all these doors. And then I open one door and they're my parents.
Mm.
They're just sitting
Oh my
there,
gosh. So beautiful.
and it's my mom who was cool, meaning like I just saw her 2 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
I had a lifetime with her. I did not have
Yeah.
a lifetime with my dad. So he was
Yeah.
the one who stood up and, we hugged. And so it's in there.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's,
Mhm.
So beautiful.
it's pulling it out, like you say, teasing it out. And and making something of it. But I know my brain is working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all relates, right? It's that composite of who we are. Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Right.
And I'm sure this is probably not the last time we'll be talking. So,
Yes.
yeah, we'll just say until next time,
Until
right?
Oh,
next
you're
time.
very sweet. Thank you. I feel blessed that you guys,
Oh,
Mm.
want to have me on. So I appreciate it.
So good to
our
see you.
pleasure. Hmm. Yep.
Bye.
Kisses.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.